others. Non-compulsory use of PVC has been agitated by the populace. Timeline for elections and election tribunals, which is proposed to be moved from the Constitution to the Electoral Act, although this will still require some constitutional amendments. Voting by inmates, which already had a judgment compelling the INEC to ensure that inmates are also given their constitutional rights. Replacement of members of legislative houses without by-election, which was also a proposal from INEC trying to look at way of costing costs. Transmission of results, political parties and internal democracy, amongst many others. A document highlighting these proposals will be circulated in the hall to all relevant stakeholders. To the general public, I want you to know that these reforms are not the work of one person, party, or committee. They belong to all Nigerians. Hence, the need for technical input of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, the judiciary, security agencies, civil society, political parties, youth bodies, women groups, traditional and religious institutions, information and communication technology experts, people with disability, etc., etc. The committee is therefore open, receptive, and committed to a genuine consultative process in order to ensure that every vote counts, every voice is heard, and every election is credible, peaceful, and inclusive. On behalf of the House Committee on Electoral Matters, I thank everyone who has contributed to this journey so far, from the management and staff of Policy and Advocacy Center, PLAC, Yaga Africa, King Park Development Initiative, KDI, Inclusive Friends Association, IFA, the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO, European Union, to all the members of the members and secretariat of the Technical Committee. I also thank everyone here for your presence, for your attention, and for your contribution to this vital national exercise. Please make your voice heard in the oral sessions today and also through written memoranda in the days ahead.
To the National Assembly's Joint Committee on Electoral Matters for the invitation into this critical, very important national dialogue. So today is a testament to Nigeria's commitment to its democratic processes and institutions. It is a reflection of the progress made by the National Assembly to respond to the voices of Nigerian citizens and civil society who have called for a more transparent, inclusive, and credible electoral framework. Public hearings give voice to citizens. They allow ideas to be heard. They ensure that reforms are designed not just for the people, but with the people. And this hearing goes beyond a legislative formality. It is a demonstration of trust in people's ability to shape the rules that govern them. Nigeria's democracy has travelled a long road. Over the years, it has weathered challenges, it's adapted, and it's grown. And each election, each reform, and each civic debate adds an additional layer of resilience to the nation's democratic story. Elections are the cornerstone of any democracy. They are the way that citizens express their will, hold their leaders to account, and shape the future of their nation. The 2023 general elections in Nigeria were a key moment in the country's democratic history. They brought to the fore the strengths and innovations of the Nigerian electoral system, and they highlighted significant lessons as well. And as your partner, the United Kingdom is encouraged by the commitment of the National Assembly to implement reforms. And these reforms were highlighted by the lessons of the previous polls. and they open up the opportunity to deepen civic engagement and introduce innovation. As Nigeria prepares for its next electoral cycle, the decisions made in this room and by this institution will have far-reaching implications, and the issues are complex and consequential. Enduring, credible, transparent elections that include all parts of society, rationalising provisions on campaign financing, addressing electoral offences, exploring mechanisms such as early voting, diaspora participation, dispute resolution. There is a whole host of complex issues that this institution and you all are looking at today. And beyond the legal framework for the elections, the impending confirmation of the leadership of the Independent National Electoral Commission by the Senate is another defining moment in the run-up to the polls. Distinguished members of the National Assembly, your role in this process cannot be overstated. As custodians of the legal framework underpinning Nigeria's democracy, you have a unique responsibility and opportunity to shape the legal architecture that will stand the test of time. And we, as your partners standing at the side, commend you for your bipartisan and your collaborative approach. And to all stakeholders present here today, your contributions we see have been tireless and are and will be invaluable to this process. And on that point, of course, I would like to acknowledge the important role played by our partner here, the Policy and Legal Advocacy Centre, PLAC. Well done, and thank you for all the technical support that you provide to this process. So, distinguished guests, democracy is never finished. It is a continuous act of renewal. And as your partner, the UK stands ready to walk this journey with Nigeria. We are really delighted to be supporting this important Nigerian-led effort to strengthen institutions and the ongoing constitutional review process. And as Nigerians say, and we have adopted this as one of our logos, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And this process is a demonstration of collaboration of the legislature, of INEC, of political parties, civil society, the media, citizens, all walking in the same direction. So we look forward to the successful completion of this process in good time for the next general elections, as we've heard earlier, and I commend the Joint Committee on Electoral Matters and the leadership of the National Assembly for your commitment to ensure that the Electoral Bill 2025 reflects the aspirations of all Nigerians.
At the end of every election, what we do in INEC is organize debriefings, organize reviews to examine the exercise. We did the same during the 2023 general election. And the review report, the report of the whole exercise, the election, are there on our website. Out of the review exercise, one of the things that is very relevant and germane to today's exercise are the observations and recommendations that came out of that review. We already have our representatives on the committee that is looking at the electoral reform. During that exercise, we had 75 consolidated observations that were made. There's no need for me to go through this here. Like I said, they are already on our website. Along with that, we also came up with 142 recommendations by way of trying to improve our electoral process. All these are there in the report, but for the purpose of today's exercise, let me just mention a few of them. For example, one of the things we think needs to be looked at is the review of Section 47(1) of the Electoral Act 2022 to modify the mandatory requirement for the use of PVCs to vote and the introduction of electronically downloadable voters' card. With the viewers, we think these cards are no longer necessary. And because of some other reforms that we want to allow more people to vote, which this particular section prevents from voting, we have given this recommendation, and I'm sure we will discuss and see what happens. Also, is the review of the electoral legal framework to introduce early and special voting to cater for eligible voters on essential service, including election. I think what obtains now, I can't vote, I don't vote. The security man that is involved can't vote. And it's just because of that, the regulations that we have, because you have to vote at the polling unit where you are registered. It's not necessary that you will be deployed on election day for that particular polling unit. So it has been a challenge, we don't vote. But in a way, we are disenfranchising ourselves and all other stuff that we're doing. So that's why we are looking legal reforms to ensure that these things are handled. We also are talking about review of the electoral legal framework to permit diaspora and other out-of-country voting. This obtains in many countries. Why not Nigeria? So these are the things that I think that we will be looking at during this public review. At this point, Mr. Chairman, permit me to thank the leadership of the National Assembly for coming up with this, and thank everybody that is here to see that you all contribute to making our democratic process improved.
President of the Senate, who is unavoidably absent for exigencies of office, and he has a prepared speech for me to read. But before I read the speech of the Senate President, to which I am supposed to strictly adhere to, as a lawmaker and a lawyer, I want to state that what we are doing today is apt and germane, especially against the backdrop of the agitations from all nooks and crannies of society for reform of our Electoral Act to make it autochthonous, a replica of the yearnings and aspirations of the citizenry, and also to bring it in tandem with international best practices. That is the main reasoning behind our gathering today. And the National Assembly as a representative of the people, we will always listen to the people and ensure that whatever laws we come up with at the end of the day is a reflection of the yearnings and aspirations of the people, and that is why there is a need for public hearing to hear the people before we embark upon this legislative process, and that is what brought us here today. Now for the goodwill message of the Senate President. The goodwill message is titled, "The Courage to Reform, Renewing the Soul of Our Democracy." Goodwill message by the President of the Senate, His Excellency Distinguished Senator Godswill Obot Akpabio, GCON, at the one-day public hearing on electoral reform, organized by the Joint Committee on Electoral Matters in collaboration with the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, FLAC, Conference Room 231, National Assembly Complex, Abuja, Monday, 13th October 2025. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, ably represented by my colleague, the Leader of the House, Professor Julius Ewabere, the Chairman of the Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, who was a former Speaker, Plateau State House of Assembly, former Governor, Plateau State, former Minister of Labor and Productivity. I hope I will follow your footsteps. And now, Senator representing Plateau and the Chairman Committee on Electoral Matters, and my brother, the Chairman Senate Committee, House Committee on Electoral Matters, and distinguished senators here present, more particularly former leader of the Senate and former Federal Permanent Secretary, a very distinguished and well-experienced and vast legislator. You are welcome. And members of the House of Representatives. I will single out the Chairman of Committee on Judiciary, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, for recognition. You know, we lawyers, we give a lot of prominence to senior advocates. Whenever senior advocates are around, we bow and tremble for them. So I most particularly recognize your presence among the senators here present, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Then our colleagues in the House of Representatives, the coordinator of FLAC, international partners, the representative of the INEC, acting INEC chairman, and other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me a great pleasure to stand before this distinguished gathering at a moment of uncommon significance in our democratic journey. Today, we are not merely discussing a law. We are shaping the moral compass of our republic. I wish to commend in the highest terms the Joint Committee on Electoral Matters of the 10th National Assembly and our partners from the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, PLAC, for their foresight and patriotism in convening this public hearing. You have summoned this assembly at a time when our nation must again reaffirm her faith in the sanctity of the ballot and the inviolability of the people's will. Your work speaks not only to the intellect, but to the conscience of Nigeria. The task before us, the repeal of the Electoral Act number 13 of 2022 and the enactment of the Electoral Act 2025 is not a matter of mere legislative housekeeping. It is an act of renewal and affirmation that our democracy must continue to evolve with the times. An affirmation that our democracy must continue to evolve with the times. Every generation of Nigerians must, in its turn, polish the mirror of democracy so that it reflects the truth of its age and the hope of its people. That is why Udo Udoma, of blessed memory, a Supreme Court justice, in one of his judgment, very cerebral judgment, stated that laws are supposed to be organic. They are not supposed to be static. They are supposed to change with the changing nature of society. And that is what exactly the Senate President is saying in his speech. Every generation of Nigerians must, in its turn, polish the mirror of democracy so that it reflects the truth of its age and the hope of its people. Laws like nations must adopt or they decay. The Electoral Act of 2022 served a noble purpose, but experience has taught us that perfection is a pursuit, not a possession. The law we make today must correct the weakness of yesterday and prepare the ground for the victories of tomorrow. Electoral reform is not just a technical exercise. It is the lifeblood of democracy. It ensures that leadership is born of legitimacy and that power flows from the people, not from privilege. A nation's greatness is not measured by the noise of its elections, but by the credibility of their outcome. When citizens believe that their votes count, they invest faith in the republic. When they doubt it, the soul of democracy begins to fade. Our duty as legislators is therefore to build a system where every Nigerian, from Sokoto to Calabar, from Yenagoa to Kano, and from Maiduguri to Port Harcourt. They didn't write Maiduguri here, but I decided to mention Maiduguri. From Maiduguri to Port Harcourt. Knows that his or her vote is sacred and the process is shielded from manipulation. The legislature occupies a sacred place in this endeavor. We are the custodians of the people's trust, the bridge between their hopes and the laws that govern their lives. The National Assembly must remain the fortress of reason, the marketplace of ideas, and the temple of accountability. It is here, within these walls, that the raw timber of public opinion is shaped into the fine furniture of law. Through hearings like this, we give democracy its most vital expression. The right of citizens to speak, to be heard, and to influence the course of their nation. I urge all participants in this public hearing to engage with courage and candor. Speak with your minds freely, for nations do not grow by silence, but by sincere dialogue. Let our debates be frank, our disagreements noble, and our resolutions firm. We are not here to flatter one another, but to strengthen the very foundation of our democracy. The Nigeria we desire, a nation of justice, peace, and unity, will not emerge from comfort or consensus alone. It will emerge from the hard labor of truth, from the humility to learn, and from the courage to reform. At this juncture, it is my singular honor and privilege to declare this public hearing open. Thank you.
There's another round of applause for the President of the Senate.